Anthony's been with us Monday to Friday after lunch. He works at the tutorial centre in the morning and gets himself over here. And every time that he has shown up, he's shown up on time with his uniform pressed, ready to perform.
He was probably at risk of finishing schooling, as in whether he would be so annoyed by the system that he would leave, or get himself into so much strife disciplinary-wise that he would be asked to leave, or his choice taken away about that.
We've got 22 seconds to get the bun down from the time the order comes up on the KBS. The initiator is the person who puts the buns into the toaster. We have a fast toaster, so the buns come out. By that time, the person who initiates it has to have the clams ready. It is a team effort. Every person in that team has a position which they must fulfil, and if they don't, they let the team down.
I think, and we always suspected, that part of the reason behind his misbehaviours was his fear of academic failure.
Anthony's been with us for probably 5 or 6 weeks, and in that time he's fitted in well. He's learnt quickly. He's come along beautifully groomed each day. I understand he irons his own uniform.
He actually puts his uniform on a coat hanger and puts on the back of his collar and then rides to the tutorial centre. So I kind of thought that sort of says a lot about Anthony.
The centre's been used an innovative approach where, rather than returning him to school in the afternoon, for the last lesson or so, we arranged a bit of a different afternoon for him where he's doing a work experience placement at a local fast food chain. And that's been another place of learning for him, where he's had to learn things like punctuality, dress sense, having an iron shirt and all those sort of things. And I know the centre's really helped him, even right down to some of the tin tacks of getting himself properly attired for work and so on.
He's felt that he's been part of a team where people recognise him and use his name, simple things like that. He's been encouraged to be part of the coordination and the calling within the restaurant, and we encourage him to speak up, whereas before he was quite shy and wasn't confident. But I feel his confidence has grown dramatically in the time that he's been here.
Before, I always had preference to take on mature age students, like grown men, people that were married, that had been through the girls, the cars, the hotel scenarios, because I find them in other businesses I've worked in, once they get to that 17 years of age and they get a car, they get girls, stuff like that, they tend to be a little bit more wild, you lose them to a degree. Patrick came here as a work experience person while he was still at school. His whole outlook and attitude was the main reason I put him on. And he just had a different work ethic altogether. Well, he was a bit of a rebel when he was a younger fellow. I do believe he had problems with school. But his spelling and his handwriting and things like that in this area or aspect we've got here is very important, because our documentation is the follow-on of everything we do here.
Hayden had problems at school, and whether it was Hayden having problems with the school system or the school system having problems with Hayden. But we got involved through Leanne Eibel, who I know and knows some of the stuff we do in here. And she said, "Do you want to take Hayden on as a trial?" And so he came here for 3 months, and while he was here, we had no problems with Hayden at all, because he was in an environment here where people accept him as a working person, and so that worked out well. And then you went back to school again?
Yeah, and just didn't go very well at school. We had a few run-ins with a few different teachers, and I think gave them a little bit of crap, and then they just said, "Righto, we don't want you here," basically, and I got kicked out, and then Ron offered me an apprenticeship and helped me out heaps, wanted to do it, and come in here, and all I did was just learn from then on in, and it was just marvellous. He put me through TAFE, and it was great. Now here I am, going on 3rd year, and bloody marvellous. Learning and living life how I should be, and no hassles like when I was at school. So
Hayden really struggled to be in a school. We've got about 1,000 kids here, and it's a busy challenging place at times for the best of us, at any time. And some young men, especially, perhaps often find it difficult to maintain focus in that, and the distractions that are around them, and especially when you've got somebody who's quite volatile emotionally, then there's a whole lot of things they can get involved in which is going to interfere in their education. But in a much smaller, more supportive, as well as in many ways more disciplined environment of the tutorial centre, where he could really focus down in on what he had to do, and those few really important skills, rather than those skills and the 20 other things that we try to teach young people these days, or 30 or 40 or 50, really enabled him to succeed.
But without the grounding and the background of the Exodus in the first place, he would not have done that. And so he'd done that. Then after he finished that in March, he then started an apprenticeship here. So it was a story to where it had to, because he had his working self also. But again, since he's been there, he's had some great results at TAFE. He's passing all his stuff. One module he passed was the drawing and interpret sketches, which Hayden was one of two that passed out of 17 kids, which is a pretty good thing. But part of the problem is that these kids have no confidence in themselves, and they come in a situation where they're always being in trouble, so they're always looking, because when you're always in trouble, you always look away from the trouble. And so the other kids are gaining confidence in themselves, and that's why they are looking in the face, they are confident in what they're doing, they are being treated respectfully, and so that's why their attitudes change.
They're struggling along, and here's an opportunity to come along and bridge that gap and increase their learning, tell them how to present themselves and so forth, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I hope that the people of Gladstone get behind it, industry and so forth get behind, and make certain that it's not struggling to get through, because Gladstone needs all people we can get, and we need them with competence and a good education.
It's a huge turnaround, isn't it?
Oh,
from the
fabulous.
dispirited, disconnected kid who starts in the centre to one who's completing after 90 days, has turned right round and is now enthusiastic, self-confident and able to project themselves.
I think one of our fellows put it a good way where he said, without this, the majority of these kids would be a liability to society, whereas now they're an asset. That's a great thing.
I was just waking up as the phone was ringing because it was in my room, and I've gone, oh yeah, Mum, here you go, here's the phone, it's ringing. I've gone to walk back to bed, and as I've got to lay down, Mum's gone, what are you doing? You better get back up, you got to go to the tutorial centre today. I'm, oh yeah, yep. No, just tell him I'm sick, I don't want to go. And then we got into a bit of an argument, and I ended up having a shower and jumping in the car and got dropped off there. I walked in and I remember Casey just sitting there looking at me. No more days off, no more. And we're like, yeah, righto. Got into it, and yeah.
It worked though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It happened a few times, but it was pretty good to have someone there just looking over you, trying to get you to come in, watching out for you. So.
In the past, these children haven't had anywhere to turn, nowhere to go to, and there's no doubt that whoever thought this up had the children's future in mind.
You don't always see a direct result in your own backyard. This one we do, and for us it's pretty special.